Hi, I'm Matt from Heron Financial. I'm here to talk a little bit about the changes that have been well documented with regards to landlords, how that's affected the inquiries that we've been receiving since the news has been made with taxation changes, lender changes, various other changes that happened in the buy-to-let market, which has been under the spotlight. I've been asked by Robsons to talk a little bit more about how things are going to move forward, where we see things changing in the future, and exactly what it means for you as a landlord. So the first major change I think that's been very well documented in the press is to do with taxation. Now, I'm not an accountant, but we do get asked the question a lot about where things are going there, how things have been impacted. One of the major things that we've seen change is the number of inquiries about buying a property as a limited company rather than an individual. Where that's had a major impact is on the lenders themselves. They've started now to open up what was a fairly niche market and has now become a lot more mainstream. So first of all, we've seen a lot more of the larger lenders who traditionally wouldn't look at something like a limited company mortgage come in and start offering that service. The first thing I would always say in this situation is talk to your accountant. If you haven't got one, you need to find a good one, because there are far more hoops to jump through. There's far more in terms of red tape that needs to be crossed off when you are going to buy a property as part of a limited company rather than an individual. Generally speaking, you'll find that the interest rates are a little bit higher. You'll find that the lenders charge normally higher than normal fees. If you've bought buy-to-lets in the past, it was probably a fairly straightforward exercise, quite an easy process, particularly before 2008, 2009. That's all changed. So a limited company application is more in depth. They're going to want to ask questions about you as an individual, but also about the company that you've set up. So it's really important that you speak to a broker at the outset in conjunction with talking to your accountant, because the broker and the accountant will need to talk to one another. Your agent will also need to be involved in this, because they would need to manage the expectation of the vendor. It will take slightly longer. There is more to go through, so it's really important that you keep your estate agent on side and that they understand that this is going to be a longer process. Something else which has changed quite a lot, if we put limited companies to one side, is the more traditional buy-to-let products. So in recent months, the regulator has focused quite heavily on exactly how these products are underwritten. In the past, it was, as I just mentioned, quite easy. It wasn't the most regulated of environments. There certainly weren't as many questions being asked on a buy-to-let mortgage application as there are on, say, a regular mortgage application for a residential property. That's all changed. So we've now got a situation where lenders are being as stringent and as strict on buy-to-let as they are on residential. It's really important now that before you even start that house buying process, but probably before you start even registering with agents or very early on in that process, that you consult a broker that knows what they're doing. Because the major change that's been made is with regards to the rental income. Essentially, it needs to be higher. And that's one of the things that I think we're going to see changing over the coming months. As a result of the tax changes that have come in, and as a result of the regulator being more stringently involved in the underwriting process, I think we are probably going to see rates increase. Robsons are far better positioned than me to help you, to guide you on that. But I think one of the things that we've seen happen a lot with our landlord clients is an expectation from them that the rent needs to be higher. And for property to continue being as popular as it has been, it's a British institution. You know, it's not unusual now to have 2-3 properties, and it's a fairly accepted position for anyone to be in. I think in order for that to continue being the status quo, we probably will see landlords start to look at their rents and think, well, we're going to need to revise these. We're going to need to look at where we can build in that margin, because lenders are certainly being stricter. So to summarise, what I would say is whether you're buying a property as an individual, in the traditional sense as a buy-to-let, or whether you are going to consider this limited company approach in order to circumnavigate the taxation, you need to consult a broker very early. You need to potentially be talking to an accountant who knows what they're doing. And you also need to be involving your agent at the early stages so that they know that it might take you slightly longer than it would have traditionally done.